Suicidalists, it has been a goddamn long time, hasn't it? Nearly 6 months without a new episode. I started getting some emails in my YouTube inbox and over at the Tumblr from people wondering if the show was over, if I was done producing this show. And a part of me wanted so badly to tell them yes, but then there's this other part of me that actually enjoys producing this show and interacting with you guys here on the YouTube. And here we are, a new episode, so we can safely say that one beat out the other. I offer only this excuse. I am just one man, and this show can be kind of a pain in the ass to produce when you're just the only crew member. I write the scripts, I stand here in front of the camera, and I try to recite those lines as close to the script as I possibly can. I edit the episodes, I add the graphics, I add the music, I obtain the permission to use that music all by myself, and it can be a lot of work, sometimes a little too much. Back in January when I fell off the wagon, I was getting up extremely early in the morning, and the prospect at the end of the night of standing here in front of this camera after having been up since 5 a.m., standing here until the wee hours of the morning trying to get my lines right was not terribly enticing. However, my schedule has settled down some. I now have the time to actually produce these things. And while I may not have the time to do them as frequently as I was, where I was doing a weekly episode, I promise to keep bringing you new episodes as frequently as possible. Now, somehow, in the intervening months, between then and now, my subscriber base has continued to grow. And so for those of you who stuck around wondering if new episodes were going to be coming out, and those of you who are new to the show, new subscribers, welcome. I feel like I owe it to you to bring you something new. So, to commemorate my return, I bring to you another return, Godzilla. The governments of the world are keeping secrets, like they do. As it turns out, since the 1950s, a coalition of governments have banded together to quietly deal with a series of massive prehistoric monsters that have been returning to the surface from time to time from the briny deeps. They're at it again after a freak earthquake levels a large nuclear power plant in Japan. Now, flash forward 15 years from now, where Kick-Ass is fresh off the plane from the Middle East, where he's a bomb disposal technician with the U.S. Navy. He managed to get over the devastation of that plant collapse since it profoundly affected his life when he was a boy. However, his conspiracy nut father, Heisenberg, has been unable to move on. And he must return to Japan to bail him out of jail since he's kind of a thorn in the side of the authorities there. Heisenberg witnessed the death of his wife in the plant collapse, and he is now absolutely, positively convinced that something very large and something very alive is at the site of that plant. And as it would happen, he is right. All of a sudden, a massive, impossibly humongous creature erupts from this gigantic cocoon on the site of the nuclear power plant, and it raises hell in Japan on its way out to sea. Unfortunately, it's not the only one of its kind. In a nuclear waste facility in Nevada, there is another one being kept that at the same time manages to burst free of its bonds, and it basically levels Nevada, Las Vegas specifically, on its way out to the coast to meet its mate. This would spell doom ordinarily for the human race, and it still possibly could, were it not for the presence of a third giant monster, a prehistoric alpha predator that is looking to kill the both of these things, named Godzilla. Now, Kick-Ass is stranded in Japan in the middle of all of this mayhem and chaos, and he is desperate to get back home to his family in San Francisco. And thankfully, due to a series of unbelievably convenient plot developments, he eventually finds his way to Ground Zero in San Francisco, smack dab in the middle of a gigantic three-way fight between a bunch of humongous fucking monsters. I am a Godzilla fan. I have been since I was a little kid, and my mother put on Godzilla vs. Monster Zero on WLVI's Creature Double Feature. Since then, I have fostered a love affair, a very strong love affair with Toho's flagship monster. So my expectations for this picture may have been a little higher than they should have been. See, previous to Godzilla, Godzilla director Gareth Edwards had directed a movie called Monsters, which as of this recording is still streaming on Netflix. I strongly recommend that you check it out, as it is a very, very good movie. And it takes a similar strain of giant monsters and it places them in our midst. And this makes Edwards uniquely qualified to direct an American adaptation of Godzilla. So for whatever reason, Americans have always had a really hard time getting their heads around the concept of Godzilla. To the American viewer, the average Western viewer, Godzilla movies are a series of cheeseball pictures with really bad dubbing and men in rubber suits stomping on miniature cities. However, Godzilla is reflective of a particularly Japanese cultural quality that we as Westerners will never really be able to understand, since none of our cities have ever been leveled by a nuclear weapon. However, in the last 13 years or so, we have experienced a couple of very large-scale disasters in our cities that puts Godzilla in perspective. Godzilla should have been a much better movie than it was. Since our only basis for comparison is that rotten 1998 Roland Emmerich piece of shit, the only way we had to go in this case was up. For starters, it's really long at over 2 hours, and most of the screen time is dedicated to Kick-Ass and Heisenberg's desperate search for the truth, and then Kick-Ass's desperate struggle to go home. And with a cast like Bryan Cranston and Juliette Binoche and Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ken Watanabe, you would think that that would be a much more engaging prospect, but it wasn't. Godzilla's major failing is making the mistake that any of us give so much as one singular fuck about the human struggle taking place around a trio of monsters that cause mayhem and destruction everywhere they go. And I guess I have to cut American Godzilla a little slack here, since its Toho counterparts often had a series of monster fights accompanied by a series of very long, boring wraparound plots. But the plotting isn't just Godzilla's major failing, though there are a series of very nice, very exciting, thrilling monster fights. They're also very abrupt and short. That is until the big epic finale battle, which is excellent. However, the rest of the screen time is a series of dead-end plot threads and nonsensical human action, bad plans botched predictably throughout to leave Ken Watanabe to sort of stare off into the middle distance and mutter Oppenheimerish koans about nature and mankind. Why dwell on the negative, though? Let's talk about the new Godzilla design and the adversarial Mutos. For all the plot failings that Godzilla is awash in, it tries something new, it tries something interesting, and I feel like it really pulls it off as well. Gone is the original irradiated beast origin story of Godzilla, and in its place is a story of a series of prehistoric monsters which are returning to the surface from the murky ocean depths to feed on the ambient radiation that comes from nuclear weapons, nuclear energy. It is a very clever device for exposition. It leaves the door wide open for a series of sequels, should the box office actually warrant such a thing. Now, the new Godzilla design is fucking righteous. Edwards has bumped the scale up of Godzilla to fucking titanic proportions. G has never been this big, but he is purely recognizable as Godzilla. Even if you've never seen a Godzilla movie, you recognize this monster right out of the gate. Now, to fans, in particular of the most recent batch of Toho pictures, Godzilla is going to really sort of ring a bell with you. All of the Godzilla hallmarks are in there: glowing spines, the atomic breath, the tail whip, that fucking roar. But most interesting to me was the choice to portray Godzilla in the sort of 60s Godzilla mold as the kind of friendly protector of humanity, rather than the uncaring force of nature that kind of came before those movies, and then all the movies that came after 1985. The Mutos, the adversarial monsters of Godzilla, are also pure Toho. They come off like a cross between Rodan and Megaguirus and the Cloverfield monster, and they are a real pain in the ass to Godzilla, they are a real threat, particularly in the scenes where he has to take on both of them at once. Throughout the movie, you get a number of really excellent monster fights, in particular a fight that takes out Hawaiian Airport, and then the knockdown, drag-out finale in San Francisco, which is totally worth the price of admission alone. Godzilla. A lean fan edit could really turn this movie into something special, but as it stands right now, it is bogged down by entirely too much meaningless plotting. On the upside, the new Godzilla design is fucking awesome. And every single appearance by G is a thrilling set piece that just meets fans' expectations with flying colors. It even outdoes some of Toho's last Godzilla offerings. Look at you, Final Wars. I could watch that final battle again and again and again and not get tired. Unfortunately, front to back, the entire movie is pretty unsteady, very uneven. With a little less bloat, this would have been a home run, but I'm on board for further sequels should Hollywood produce them. So what did you think of Godzilla? I am seeing a lot of division among fans here. Either people love it, people hate it. Very few people are sort of in the middle being really wishy-washy about it like I am. I would like to know what you thought of it. Let me know down in the comments, and while you're at it, tell me your favorite Godzilla movie. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.